What is up? Good morning. Happy Monday. I don't know if people even say that anymore, but it's certainly not the point of this show. This show is all about the Sunday hangover. And while I do drink from a red Solo cup on every single show, Josh has assured me he's hungover enough for the both of us, which before I kick to you, Josh, I can confirm because you're not a part of the group chat if you're watching this show right now. I am. And when I busted Josh's balls about not having the show sheet ready at like 10 o'clock, he's like, I'll get to it in an hour or so. And then about 3 o'clock in the morning, he just filled up the group chat, like screaming at Kyra for not having an email. Like it was pretty ridiculous. So I knew it was going to be a rough morning for Josh, and he took his sunglasses off, but he gave us the look of a rough morning before the show started. So Josh, how you feeling this morning?
I'm hungover and eating pizza rolls for breakfast. If that doesn't scream college hangover, I don't know what does.
Let's do some more behind the scenes. For those that don't know, Josh and I, while he comes off easily 20 years younger than me, are the same fucking age. So I'm the dad who drinks water every day and hasn't been hungover in probably weeks because of the New York trip. But Josh, my man, you're out here living your best life still. I'm proud of you, buddy.
Yeah, trying to anyway. Yeah. No, I feel like I got mistaken for a Packers fan at the bar yesterday because I was wearing green, and we were still watching the game. So every time the Packers scored, this guy was buying, those like long boards with the shots. Yeah. So he was like buying one for like 4 of us the entire time. He's like, here, come take a shot. Packers scored. I'm like, I'm not going to turn down alcohol.
Go Packers. That's awesome. All right, folks.
The show is definitely a Sunday, let me tell you.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the show, all right, folks, the show is Monday Hangxiety, where we are trying to help you with those hangovers, the anxiety. We're going to help you figure out what was completely fluky yesterday and when you should just chill the fuck out. Obviously, we have to start the show with a shout out to our buddy Elixirs, who you said, young Waku just resting up this week. Not a great week for the Falcons, but Elixirs, constant support. Gotta appreciate it. So there's going to be a lot of segments in the show where we're going to talk to you about some things that happened yesterday, but we decided to start it with a quick recap. So I'm going to run down every game that's been played so far through week 2. We had the Chiefs beating the Chargers on Thursday night. Justin Herbert is dealing with broken cartilage in his ribs. And for those of you who are not aware, that's actually the same injury that got Justin Herbert his job from Tyrod Taylor. So hopefully they fired that doctor.
I think it's okay to say that Herbert is not losing his job to Chase Daniel. Just throwing that out there.
I'm just worried about the punctured lung.
Fair enough. Same.
The Patriots edged the Steelers by 3 points in what was easily probably the ugliest game of Sunday. The Giants beat the Panthers by 3 to go to 2-0. Daniel Jones is doing just enough to not lose for this team. The Jets complete an insane 14-point comeback, and the Browns in under 2 minutes. They beat the Browns 31-30. The Jaguars absolutely embarrassed the Indianapolis Colts 24-0. The Colts were without Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, and any semblance of a real NFL quarterback. It was very, very ugly. The Dolphins and the Ravens, this game will probably come up a little bit later. The best game of Sunday by far, 42-38. The Dolphins beat the Ravens. Tua goes for 469 yards and 6 touchdowns. Crazy game. The Buccaneers stole one from the New Orleans Saints, 20-10. Wasn't a very pretty game. I think it was 3-3 at halftime. And then the Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore feud continued. Both ended up getting ejected from the game and are probably facing suspension. The Lions beat the Commanders 36-27. Amazing game by Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you are sleeping on this kid, you need to stop, but you're not going to be able to get him anywhere except for daily these days. Also a great game by Aiden Hutchinson, the first 3 sacks of his career in this game. 49ers beat the Seahawks 27-7, but they have lost Trey Lance for the season. Good thing they re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo. He is the starting quarterback. The Rams absolutely snuck by the Atlanta Falcons. This game was a blowout for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it wasn't a blowout. They ended up pulling out the win 31-27. Big yikes for Kyle Pitts. I don't know if he's going to come up later in the show, but it was not a pretty opening 2 weeks for Kyle Pitts. Cardinals with a late comeback take the Raiders to overtime, and then Byron Murphy scoops a Hunter Renfrow fumble, takes it for 6 points in the win in overtime. The Broncos looked absolutely mediocre, and that was the best thing you could possibly call them in a win against the Texans, 16-9. The offense looked slow and confused. Jerry Jeudy did leave the game with a shoulder injury and did not return. The Cowboys make the Bengals 0-2 off of another late field goal. They win the game. I don't think I actually have the score in here, but anyway, they won the game by 3 points. Cooper Rush 2-0 as a starter, and Dalton Schultz. And Dalton Schultz went out with a knee injury, not an ACL injury, but they are saying he could miss some time. And then if he didn't,
apparently the curse of Ryan Weisse here.
I was gonna say it's Blake Jarwin, it's Dalton Schultz. Dallas Cowboys tight ends who I like are in trouble. And the worst part is I like Jake Ferguson too, so he's going down soon. And if you didn't stay up late, as Josh was just mentioning, Aaron Rodgers scored a lot of points, 27-10. He still owns Chicago, and since he does own them, he might want to find them a whole new offense again. The Bears threw the ball just 11 times in a loss. Don't quite know what the hell was going on there. It was ugly, and that's what we're here for. Normally, we would jump to Josh's feelings about the Philadelphia Eagles, but they haven't played yet, so we're going to hold off on that.
Night. But I'll give you a quick preview. Justin Jefferson about to go off. That's all I know. So, I just want to see Justin Jefferson and AJ Brown do their damn thing. And as long as we win by 3, I don't care. I want some offensive fireworks.
Yeah. Before we jump into it, just want to give some shout outs. Joel Worth joining us. One of our writers says pizza rolls an underrated breakfast. So Joel Worth living that hungover college life as well. And then of course, happy to see his Packers pull out a win, and it was a good win. Scamper's with us. Good morning, Scampers. Good morning, Michael. Happy to see everybody here. And then what do we got here? Is this actually a question? I haven't read it yet. I'm just going to throw it up on the screen.
Oh, Lichters, your bench is hurting, brother. I think.
That's rough.
It's safe to drop Trey Lance right now.
Yeah, if it's no sort of, even if it is a keeper league, if this isn't Dynasty, Trey Lance is a flat out drop. You don't have to worry about that at all. Yeah. And then Michael, happy as Jets pulled off a win. I think we're good on everything. Yeah. Just trying to catch up here before we jump into the show. Oh, and then Faith joining us. Faith joining us on a show that Kyra's not even on. I haven't even mentioned yet. Faith immediately asks where the hell Kyra is because Faith doesn't care about the rest.
She's on short-term IR, Faith.
Yeah. Kyra had some personal things to take care of this morning, and they ran into the afternoon. We made the show a little bit later to support Kyra, and we will always support Kyra, but she wasn't able to make it, so we gave her the day off, and Josh and I are here just reacting to Monday's action. If anybody has questions, drop them in the chat. But until that point, let's get into the hangover. This is our biggest head scratcher of the week, Josh.
Well, I'm going to start with my bold prediction from Wednesday when I said that Devontae Adams would be the wide receiver 1 going against a god-awful Arizona Cardinals secondary. How the fuck do you only have 2 catches? You're playing in front of grandma, man. Bring it. Show out. Damn. That one really hurt. But honestly, from what I can remember from that Raiders game, the play calling really wasn't all that great. We talked about, Waller having a good game. I know you guys brought it up on DFS and Chill. He did well, top 3 tight end on the week. But yeah, they just 7 targets for Adams and only 2 catches. Absolutely baffling to me.
Against the defense that shouldn't have been able to slow him down. That's the worst part.
Yeah, absolutely. It just all over, just baffling, especially coming off of a 10-catch, 140-yard performance in week 1. Then because Kyra's not here, I got to fill in and Josh, bring the, instead of only 1 reaction, we're going to have 2 or 3 or 4 because, somebody's got to hold it down for Kyra. So the Ravens, who, running football team, love this, have 155 rushing yards yesterday. Fantastic. Great. You take away Lamar Jackson, this team had 36 rushing yards. Can J.K. Dobbins come back any faster? Yep. Good Lord, they are not running the football at all. It's baffling to me. They're not controlling the clock. As great as Lamar is playing, that's going to hinder this Ravens team if they cannot run the football. Because we saw what happened to them last year when they had to throw the football as much as they threw the football last year. Yeah. And then finally, as much as I love the fact that Nick Chubb scored 3 touchdowns yesterday, that last one cost them the game. Fall down, stay in bounds. The Jets, no more timeouts, none. And you win this game. Joe Flacco to the frickin' moon. Homeboy brought it yesterday. Kudos to him, the Jets on the comeback. But wow, that was really fucking dumb on Nick Chubb's part.
I was going to say, Cleveland Browns have never been in a situation to turn down points in the history of their franchise, so he didn't know anything about that.
Jesus. My Lord, that was just terrible decision-making on Nick Chubb's part.
So our buddy Michael...
Hey, thanks for a touchdown.
Yeah. Hey, our buddy Michael lost Trey Lance in a few leagues. He's wondering, is it Jimmy G that he should be looking for or elsewhere? I'm just going to quickly say, I would be looking for Carson Wentz ahead of Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know who else is out there. I haven't done the research for my waiver article quite yet. Josh, do any names come to mind for you?
I think a kind of under the radar guy, and I know our lovely friend Joe Zolo is not going to like this, but what about Jared Goff?
Yep, I knew you were going to say
he's been slinging the ball pretty well through 2 weeks. Obviously, we know Amon-Ra is bringing it. That offense is clicking right now. I mean, the wins will start to come the more they get into a rhythm, but Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, he's opening up that offense, and Goff is playing really well. And I think that's going to be a name that not a lot of people are really going to be paying much attention to, especially with Wentz being available and what he's done through 2 weeks.
Yeah, Wentz and Goff, I think, are really good picks. That Lions offense, you want a piece of Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously, yep. And so go get that piece. For those who don't know, Joel works in Northeast Ohio. He's letting Josh know after that Jets game, the folks in Northeast Ohio were not very happy, and Joel personally places the blame on Brownie the Elf at midfield. It was a curse. Alex McBuckets, I don't know if you've ever joined the show before. Happy to have you. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. Do we think Tyler Bass and Jalen Hurts can go off for 41 points tonight? Josh, I know you're hoping Hurts handles this all on his own.
I mean, yeah, I would very much love to see that. I mean, a kicker could very easily get 10 points. I mean, that's what, 2 40-yard field goals, 2 extra points. Sure. And then that takes it down to about 31 for Hurts. I mean, especially if he's running the football. I mean, he could very easily have a 15-point floor just from that.
So I was going to say 100 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns gets Hurts 28 points. So then you're just looking for 3 more in the passing game. That's only 75 yards.
Yeah. It's very possible. I'm not enamored with Minnesota's defense. I don't think they're all that great. I know Philly's offensive line really didn't look as good as advertised against the Lions. But they've got some aging vets on the defensive line for the Vikings. So I think that'll help play into the Eagles being able to kind of slow the pass rush a little bit. So I think that'll help Hurts. And again, we saw the connection.
Even if they don't, that's what's going to lead to him rushing more. So it could work out really well.
Yeah. And I mean, he had, what was it? Over 70 last week rushing yards. So I mean, yeah, I thought it was closer to 90.
That's what I was going to say. I thought he was approaching 100. I think it might be 91. Hold on one second.
Okay. I mean, that and then a rushing touchdown, that was 15 baked in right there. So, I mean,
90 and a touchdown.
41 points is very within the realm of possibilities for Bass and Hurts. Will it happen? I don't know, but it definitely can.
Yeah, definitely less than. It's probably a better chance than whatever app you're playing on is giving you to win the game right now. Because those all mean nothing. My head scratcher of the week is not game related. So I'm glad Josh brought his A game, because my head scratcher of the week are what the hell were the refs doing blowing the whistle as Allen Robinson walked into the end zone? For those who don't follow our show, on Wednesday, I guaranteed 2 Allen Robinson touchdowns, and he scores the first one for the Rams. I was extremely happy. He scores the second one for the Rams. I was ecstatic. And then they call the play back for some sort of medical injury. I hope whoever it was is okay, except now I don't hope they were okay. But anyway,
stop.
For some sort of medical something. And when they brought in Mike Pereira, he even said, as long as it's close. He was walking into the end zone. The play was over when they blew the whistle, and it seemed like they were blowing the whistle for the touchdown, and they call it back. So it's a bullshit call. I got completely screwed. I'm not very happy about it. It even cost me money in daily. Just not a very happy person right now. So fuck you, refs. And I hope at least that person who faked.
That's all right. What we do know is it's Brownie the Elf's fault.
Yeah, I agree. That one was Brownie the Elf's fault too. Actually, yeah, most of the bad stuff that happened this week. Fuck you, Brownie. Fuck you. In case you haven't picked up yet, the show is hangover related, hangover themed. And so Josh calls the second session the migraine. And that is the underwhelming performance that is a prelude of things to come. So basically they were bad and they're probably going to stay bad. And Josh, you have a few of them for us here.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the Colts. 0 points this week, 20 points in a tie to one of the worst teams in the NFL last week in the Texans. I thought getting Matt Ryan was supposed to be an improvement over Carson Wentz, and Wentz is by far outperforming Matt Ryan right now. He has 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions through 2 games.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap.
Yep.
I mean, Jonathan Taylor is Jonathan Taylor. I know, not having Pittman probably affected this game plan because he was a late scratch in the week, but
nobody got open. Matt Ryan looked bad, but nobody.
Ryan looked bad. Nobody got open. The play calling was truly abysmal.
There it is.
Are we sure that Frank Reich is going to have a job by the end of the year? Like, this is not like his leash has been way, way longer than it should have been over the last couple of years because they've literally had a new starting quarterback for the last 4 years. I'm pretty sure actually every year that he's been the head coach of that team. Yeah. And they haven't found a solution yet. And I'm sure things may get a little bit better throughout the year, but this team just looks all out of sorts right now. I mean, they're playing with a new defensive coordinator when Eberflus got the Bears head coaching job. But Frank Reich is calling plays, and we saw the downfall of Peterson in Philly because he wouldn't give up play calling. If Frank Reich doesn't say, you know what, it's not working, let's let the offensive coordinator call the plays, they're going to be in trouble as the season goes on.
I don't think he makes it through the season, to be perfectly honest, if they don't get it together.
Well, if they keep looking like this, exactly. I would 1,000% agree with you on that one. My next one, this is kind of it's fun to watch them play, but I still think they're going to be a very bad team, and that's the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep.
Drake London looks like the truth.
He does.
And I know Kyle Pitts has struggled, and I get it. He's
against good defenses. I know I said big yikes.
He plays Seattle next week.
Exactly.
Kyle Pitts is going to be fine. I'm not that worried about Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, Eric Saubert just caught a touchdown.
Right.
Or in the first week.
So I mean, like, I'm not really worried about Pitts, but like, Falcons are down. They come back up. They're up. They come back down. The defense is kind of hit or miss. They remind me a lot of last year's Lions teams. Like, the Lions were competitive week in and week out. They would lose a lot of close games. But, when bad teams are playing close, good things start to happen. And we see that now with the Lions. They're starting to win, right? They were competitive. They came back against Philly. They won yesterday against the Commanders. So, like, that's what you should be wanting to expect from the Falcons right now. And they find a legitimate running back. No offense to Cordero Patterson. Not it right now. And this is a young team that is building these pieces. If they had taken someone like Breece Hall, like, this offense just needs an offensive line at that point. But you have a mobile quarterback with Mariota. You have Ritter behind him who can also move around, like potentially getting Ridley back next year. This offense could be firing on all cylinders very quickly. And they're a lot of fun to watch. But again, they're going to continue to struggle. So I'm kind of tempering expectations on that one. But my final thought here, the Bengals spent all that money to improve their offensive line and have given up 13 sacks through 2 weeks. This is literally the same old fucking story. What are we doing? Now, I understand offensive lines take time to gel. Preseason is, I don't even know what preseason is anymore because nobody plays except the guys that are fighting for the last 4 roster spots on a team. When you bring in that type of talent, you spend that type of money to fix a problem, you have got to give them time to gel. And you know how you do that? You play fucking football. You don't do it on a practice field. You need game situations. They're not playing in the preseason. This is why they're struggling. We saw it last year when the Chiefs brought in a whole bunch of new pieces. Their offensive line struggled throughout the beginning part of the year, and it started to get a little bit better as the season went on. But you're throwing Joe Burrow for a loop here. Like, this team is struggling. If their offensive line cannot fix these problems, we're talking about a serious Super Bowl hangover here.
Yep. Like, you're beating Joe Burrow into submission early in his career.
Yep, absolutely. And that's how, and as much as I love, Joe Burrow and all the swag that he's got, it'll fuck with his mind.
Oh, we saw it yesterday. If you looked at some of those pictures of him coming off the field, he looked defeated. And I don't even mean like mad. He just looked defeated. And the game was still winnable at that point. So I'm going to give a shout out to Elixirs. He big Falcons fan. So he brought up, if Calvin Ridley can come back swinging next year, Could be a fun team with that
As
little
long as
rebound
he's
you're
not
talking
swinging betting lines, that's all.
Yeah, no more swinging betting lines. What bothered me about the Falcons, and I'm obviously a Cordell Patterson apologist, no targets in the game whatsoever. I'm fine. Pepper Mike Evans, Pepper Kyle Pitts. He should at least be third. He got a big old 0. I don't understand if that was
Drake
Mariota,
London, not Mike
if
Evans.
that was, or yeah, my bad. Yeah, Drake London, Mike Evans, the connection I'm making there. Pepper Drake London, Pepper Kyle Pitts, but 0 targets for Patterson. I don't know if that's a Mariota thing or a play calling thing. If it's a play calling thing, they should fix it. Just don't quite. I know you're not as big a fan of Patterson as I am. I'm going to go back to a question that Elixirs has. So he has Wentz, Tua, and Trevor Lawrence are on waivers. He's leaning Lawrence so he can stack with Kirk and ETN, or does he just keep Wentz? I would actually take Tua in here. I want a piece of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle every week. I understand Tua might not be anyone's favorite quarterback. Those weapons make him a threat to go off for 30 to 40 every week. So
agreed. Yeah. This would be one of those cases where I wouldn't hate actually having 2 quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
And just, play the matchups. I mean, there are plenty of people talked about it all week that, just with the implied over under, the Miami-Baltimore game was a sneaky, high scoring game. And it turned out to be exactly that. I'm with you. Give me some kind of piece of that offense, whether it's Tua, whether it's Hill, Waddle, even Gasecki pops.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel looking like the real deal right now.
Yeah, and he's a lot of fun to watch. His press conferences are great, but he's a really smart dude, and he's got the weapons on that team to really fire on all cylinders. So yeah, I don't mind the idea behind a stack, but when you're stacking that many Jaguars in a redraft lineup, you're destined for trouble. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But yeah, Tua, Wentz, I would be okay with having both of those guys and then just playing matchups weekend.
And even still, yesterday went about as well for Jacksonville as you could ask it to have went, and Lawrence still only scored 22 fantasy points. I just don't know that Lawrence is a guy that I'm rushing out to have on my team in a single quarterback league.
Yep.
So for my migraine, I am doing the first flip-flop of Monday's Hangxiety. Last week, I told everybody to just chill the fuck out on Darnell Mooney. And I am going to go ahead and say, no, it's all bad. I don't know what you do with him at this point because you probably spent a 5th to a 7th round pick on him. I'm not against cutting him if you're deep and you need the roster spot. This is a team that has thrown the ball, 28 times in 2 games, that they've lost. Now, the first game they had the hurricane. They still threw the ball 6 more times than they did in the last night's game where they needed to throw the damn football. Should we be worried about the Green Bay coaching tree? Because Denver doesn't look very good either. So you have Denver with Nathaniel Hackett, and then the kid, I can't think of the QB coach that is the offensive coordinator in Chicago.
Getsy, I think.
Luke Getsy, yeah. So you have Luke Getsy, Nathaniel Hackett. Those offenses are not looking very good right now. So is this something we think?
Well, look, let's try to put this in perspective here. The next couple games for the Bears, they play home to the Texans, and then they're at the Giants. So I'm not going as far as to say, you could probably drop Darnell Mooney. The 49ers have a good defense. The Packers have a good defense. I understand your trepidation when, they should have been throwing the football more, and 11 times just isn't going to cut it.
Yeah.
But let's maybe pump the brakes a little. If he's still bombing against the Texans and Giants, then yes, I'm out at that point, because there is no coming back. At Vikings versus Washington, at Patriots, at Cowboys, the next 4 after that. So
yeah. 2 catches for 4 yards on the season. And again, we're all kind of waving off that first game, and I'm fine with that. Second game worries me far more. Don't cut him. I am overreacting, but he is not finding my starting lineup until he proves it. If his first pop game is on my bench, I'm perfectly good with that. The one last thing I want to throw out is, are we maybe undervaluing what Allen Robinson did for him last year? Because Allen Robinson is still Allen Robinson and demanded a little bit of defensive respect. And right now, they don't have to cover anybody. They certainly don't have to cover Cole Kmet.
Well, and that was really that. Honestly, that was the big worry going into this team. Is Darnell Mooney a true wide receiver 1? And that's really what we did not know. And we were all kind of assuming that, hey, he's going to be the de facto 1, so that means he can handle it. Well, just because you're the de facto 1 doesn't mean you can handle that type of responsibility, that type of defensive attention where, and I love Mooney as a route runner, there's definitely some limitations in his game. Let's be honest. That's why he was a 5th round pick. Like, more often than not, guys fall late in drafts because they're not as talented as the guys that are being taken in the 1st and 2nd round. So he has that working against him. But, you're expecting Justin Fields to grow, but you didn't do anything to help him because your offensive line still sucks. There's no legitimate wide receiver 2. Say what you want about Kmet. I personally think he's trash, but, it is what it is. He was the best tight end in his draft class. That wasn't a very good class. Like, it is what it is. So it's just like, it's little things like that. This team is in a lot of trouble on offense. And I'm out on this offense right now.
All right. Before we jump into the next session, we got a couple of user questions. We got Alex McBuckets. Would we give up Cordero Patterson, Dalton Schultz, and Allen Robinson for Debo and Garrett Wilson in full PPR? I honestly don't care who's on your roster. Yes, I make that trade very quickly.
Yeah.
You're getting Debo.
Very quickly. Especially, go get Debo. That's easily the best player of these 5 in this deal. Garrett Wilson had a great showing yesterday. 2 touchdowns.
I looked it up, like 7 red zone targets or something insane like that.
And that's what you want to see from your rookie. Like, get them the ball when it matters. It sucks for people that were on the Elijah Moore over Garrett Wilson train for 2022, but hey, that's why you spend a top 10 pick on a wide receiver.
And I don't think we're burying Elijah Moore quite yet either. But
no, I 100%. But again, like, is this offense going to be good enough to support 2 wide receivers?
Yeah,
I'm not 100% sold that it is. But Flacco did look good, but at a certain point, Zach Wilson's going to come in, and the jury's still out on him, just like it is on Fields.
Really good point. that might come up again in my deep waivers. You may have already. And then we have Jackson C. Jackson, I think you're a new name to the chat. Welcome. What do we think of Zeke and Pollard? Zeke has gotten him fewer than 6 points 2 weeks in a row now, and he is kind of getting worried. I think you have every right to be, but I'll let Josh talk first.
Yeah, to me, it's the offensive line. For a lot of years, the Cowboys had one of the top offensive lines, and age is really getting up there and hurting this team. Tyron Smith has been out, and we know how old he is now. And that to me, that's really what it boils down to. But again, when you're playing a inexperienced quarterback, teams are going to stack the box and say, we're going to make this inexperienced quarterback beat us. So they're going to take the running game out of the equation. He played the Bucs week 1. They have a good run defense. Obviously, we know the defensive line that the Bengals have is good. So I'm not that worried yet. We know that Pollard's going to get the target share. That's what we preached all offseason, and it's come to fruition. But it's not like, Zeke is taken out of the passing game. Like, the targets are there for what we expected it to be. I'm not panicking yet. But again, I mean, you're going to have issues with Zeke until Cooper Rush proves that he can beat you. And, he's 2-0 as a starter.
I was just going to say, maybe he did.
Maybe defenses will kind of let up a little bit. But again, it all boils down to the offensive line for me when it comes to Zeke.
Zeke's playing 62% of the snaps. He's handling most of the carries. He's getting over 4 yards a carry. I'm not overly worried. I think, as Josh pointed out, the offense just needs to find itself. Right now they have CeeDee Lamb, and that's it. Dalton Schultz, while he was commanding the targets, wasn't doing a whole lot. They need to get Michael Gallup back. They need to figure out apparently what the hell Jalen Tolbert is with these healthy scratches, and I don't know what is going on with that. So they have a lot to figure out. So should you be worried? Yes. Would I move off of them? Not at this point. You're not going to get anything worthwhile from them on this point, unless you get someone to give you Deebo Samuel for all of your bums like Alex did, because that's just nuts.
Agreed.
Mike, we'll get to your question here in just a second. The next section we call a shot of espresso. I'm actually going to lead off on this one. This is a great performance that got the juices flowing. I was just happy to see Aaron Jones go off last night. Aaron Jones had a very good week 1, just not good enough for the fantasy people out there. Over 9 yards a carry, and he is still over 9 yards a carry on the season, over 11 yards per catch on the season, found the end zone twice. He's on pace for 70 targets, and I understand right now A.J. Dillon is outpacing him for targets and touches. That's fine. In this version of the Green Bay offense, they can both succeed. And I think that's something people take for granted. We wanted to see it in Denver, but we forgot that the reason we wanted to see it in Denver is because we had already seen it in Green Bay. I think they were both top 20-ish last year. And right now, Aaron Jones is the RB4 on what we're kind of looking at as a bad season thus far, except that he had a great game last night. So it was really good to see Aaron Jones just absolutely go off. And his efficiency, he has been one of the most efficient backs since he's come in the NFL. It's been absolutely nuts. This timeshare probably helps him far more than it hurts him.
Oh, absolutely. And, they use him in the receiving game, which we all kind of expected that to be. But, 15 carries, 132 yards. Like, even that's more efficient than what we're used to getting from Aaron Jones. So,
yeah, 9 yards a carry is absolutely bananas.
Absolutely fantastic. Love to see it. And, and this is kind of what you should be expecting, right? 18 carries for Dylan, 15 for Aaron Jones. But 3 targets for Aaron Jones. 3 targets, 1 catch for AJ Dillon. So like they're it's essentially a 50-50 split here in usage, right? Dillon only 3.4 yards per carry. Aaron Jones almost 9. So like, the touchdowns obviously are going to swing one way or the other, but like
exactly.
Nobody should have ever been worried about Aaron Jones going into this year.
And I think we eventually see the passing game work flip to Aaron Jones. Right now, Aaron Rodgers can only throw to the running backs when they're on the field. And with AJ Dillon playing the first 2 downs, typically he's going to see targets just because he's out there, to where Jones is going to be the guy who's out there when they actually need to be in a passing situation. So very interesting situation. Josh, I don't think there's any surprise whatsoever of what got your juice yesterday.
I mentioned this earlier. That Miami Dolphins offense, whoo boy. 190 yards and 2 touchdowns for Tyreek Hill, 171 yards and 2 touchdowns on 19 targets for Jalen Waddle. Tua, 469 yards, 6 touchdowns. Like all these guys, 1 and 2 wide receivers of the week, number 1 quarterback of the week. Gasecki even top 4 tight end at 14.1. Like this offense was absolutely firing on all cylinders, and these are the things that you love to see, not just from a fantasy perspective, but just for a love of football perspective. Like if you love defense, I'm sorry, there wasn't any of that in this game, but holy crap, like give me all.
What's funny is Tua threw 2 interceptions. It just
right. So there was some defense.
Nobody was stopping Lamar Jackson.
They just forgot to play defense on certain plays. That's all.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson looked nice too. Lamar Jackson just looked filthy out there most of the time.
Yeah, he was really efficient throwing the ball too.
I'm going to throw one other guy out there, Josh. He didn't even make the show sheet. I'm pulling a complete Kyra here, but we have been kind of burying him lately, and maybe we still should. But seeing Kyler move the way Kyler moved yesterday was a breath of fresh air, because we were worried after last year with the injuries, and he didn't run very much, and he's still not running all that much this season. But the next gen stats said he ran for 84 yards on that 2-point conversion because of how much he was moving around. That was a lot of fun just seeing him move around the way he needed to. So
love it.
And then I'm gonna just throw Joel up here. I think you're responding in the chat, but it's great that Kyra didn't show up this week, just like Cole Kmet for the first 2 weeks or last 19. We
knew we would get to Cole Kmet eventually.
Yeah.
But like Joe, I just want to say Kyra has a medical thing that's going on. So that's
why she's literally about to say we wish Kyra the best.
Let's like pump the brakes a little, but you're right. Cole Kmet did not show up.
And let's not forget we can spell Cole Kmet Cole with 2 O's now for the 2 zeros he's given him the first 2 weeks. So. All right, Mike 25 asks, should he trade Brandon Ayuk for Melvin Gordon?
I think I'd rather have Ayuk personally. Unless you're desperate for running back help, which it's fantasy football. You're always desperate for running back help. But I like Ayuk even with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like I'm not hating on it by any means. And Jimmy G, for not having really any practice time at all because of the shoulder surgery in the offseason, didn't look too bad yesterday at all.
And the offense trusts him. I am horde running backs guy. I would need to know a lot more about your roster. If Ayuk is like your wide receiver 3, I probably don't make this trade unless Melvin Gordon's coming in to be your RB3. I always value running backs more. I probably make this trade, but I would want to know more of your roster. And then Elixir said he traded away Aaron Jones and Miles Sanders for Alvin Kamara and Kyle Pitts. It is a PPR, not his wonderful standard league. Did he win the trade?
I always hate these types of questions because, trading shouldn't be about winning or losing. It should be about what's making your roster better and, that kind of thing. Obviously Kamara missed last week's game, so not great. You get an elite tight end, and I understand that, he's disappointed through 2 weeks, but you're never going to be in a position to get an elite tight end, and you got one, right? Yeah. So Kamara isn't really like a huge step down in my opinion for Aaron Jones. So I would much rather have the Kamara Pitts side. But damn, it's hard to want to part with Aaron Jones in all honesty.
I have literally nothing to add to this. You got your tight end. I assume you needed a tight end. I'm not worried about Pitts over the length of the season. You got an elite running back for an elite running back. We don't quite know what Miles Sanders is, but you got Kyle Pitts. You won the trade. I'm good with it. So, all right. And now we get to the section that actually basically created this show, the whole point of this show, and that is chill the fuck out. And this is players who may have had a dud yesterday, but it was just a bad schedule. Something went wrong in the game. You just need to chill the fuck out. Josh, we might have just been talking about this game.
Yeah, it's Kyle Pitts. I mean, look, 2 for 19 literally in back-to-back weeks. Not a great showing at all, especially when you paid a second, third round pick for the guy. There's definitely some usage issues in this offense right now. Like, I feel like they want to get Kyle Pitts the ball. It's just they have not been great matchups for him. But like I mentioned earlier in the show, he plays Seattle this week. He's got a fairly decent schedule coming up. Kyle Pitts is going to be fine. Like, if you're truly that worried, wait for him to blow up against Seattle and then trade him to try to get Andrews or, even Waller at this point, if you feel like, that's an upgrade. But Kyle Pitts, he's going to be fine. He's a key cog in that offense. They're going to keep throwing him the football. Not that worried about it. Yep. So, yes, chill the fuck out on Kyle Pitts.
And normally when you have these weird weeks where the coaches have to speak out and besmirch the name of this great game that we play and say it's not fantasy football, fuck you, Arthur Smith. Usually the player tends to get involved the next week. And so it's a perfect, if you're not aware, Seattle lost Jamal Adams for the season. So they are going to have some issues covering Pitts in this game in general. So I'm pretty big on that one. Mike has thrown in that he has AJ, I'm guessing is AJ Brown. AJ Brown, Deontay Johnson, Elijah Moore, Drake London, and Jacoby Myers. Go get Melvin.
Yeah,
you don't need Brandon
Ayuk.
Gordon at that point. Yeah. So my chill the fuck out is Brandon Cooks. It was obviously a little bit of a down week for him, and it wasn't even that bad of a week. This is going to sound hilarious, but Houston is actually playing too good right now. So they've played very good defenses, but they're playing too good. They're going to lose by more, and they're going to need to throw more. He's already hit 22 targets in 2 games. He just hasn't really found the end zone. 29% target share on top of a 12.4 yards per catch. This is exactly what you want out of Brandon Cooks. The 2 and 3 touchdown game is coming. You just need Houston to start playing worse, and they're going to.
Yeah, I mean, Dameon Pierce, he ran the ball a lot better this week.
Yeah.
Got a lot more opportunities. So definitely encouraging if you're a fan of the Texans, or even like if you spent a decently high pick on Dameon Pierce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on Cooks.
Like I said, so I think people are going to freak out a little bit. I think he's going to be a major trade piece in this upcoming week. If you have him, you're going to get offers of managers who think they can steal him off of you. I hold at this point, and I'm definitely starting him this upcoming week. So I definitely hold on Brandon Cooks. And then the other half of the chill the fuck out coin is that they had a good week this past week, but it was probably just a 1 week wonder. I made a list. Josh, you added to it. I'm not really going to talk much about any of these guys, but Nelson Aguilar, you don't want to depend on the 4th guy in the Patriots offense who busts out a big week. Noah Brown, again, you're going to have Michael Gallup coming back. You imagine Jalen Tolbert's going to start to see the field. And Josh, you added Cooper Rush to the mix. So yeah, let's not rush out and get our Cooper Rush shares. Greg Dortch is only on the field because of the suspensions and the injuries. We are 4 weeks away from getting DeAndre Hopkins back, and eventually Rondale Moore is going to get on the field. Mike Gasecki, Josh, I want to talk to you a little bit about Mike Gasecki. And I threw Daniel Bellinger on here because people are going to see him in like the top 10. The kid had 1 catch, 1 target, 1 touchdown. Don't freak out, even though he's the Giants starting tight end. But Josh, you had mentioned, Mike Gasecki, and we want a piece of this offense. I think it was 4 targets he had yesterday. He did very well with them, and what he should have done well in a very high-scoring game. I'm telling people not to freak out and don't go out and grab Mike Gasecki. Do you disagree just based on what we've talked about today?
That's probably the lone guy that I'm not really rushing to go grab. I kind of need to dig a little bit more into like where he was lining up on the field, but I know like the one touch, like he had one grab where he actually split out into the slot. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's where you want Mike.
And that's
Gesicki.
what you want. Yeah. And you had brought that up
because
early
that's
in the
where
season.
he does his most damage is, you know, either out wide as, you know, a 6'6" wide receiver, essentially going against corners that are barely 6 feet tall because he's a matchup guy. But this offense doesn't operate with the tight end out wide and in the slot. Typically they're in line, and that's where Gasecki struggles the most. So because he's not a good blocker. But again, they needed to throw the football yesterday. Like they needed to throw the football. I don't know that Miami is going to find themselves down 21 every single game this season to a point where they're going to need to throw the football. It's pretty clear based on the targets. This offense is still Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like there is no option two. Like it's those guys. And I'm saying two because it's 1A, 1B at this point. You know, 4 catches, but he only had 4 targets, if I'm not mistaken. So like he's not really being targeted that much. So I'm not really rushing to go get Gasecki. Like you're gonna have these types of pop weeks. So for me, it's more so looking at the implied over unders. You know, you know, ideally what type of matchup it's going to be. Gasecki's still going to be in that, you know, tight end 7 to like 15 range where they're all interchangeable week in and week out, and you're just playing the matchup. So that's kind of where I'm at on Gasecki.
And let's not forget, he had 1 catch for 1 yard the previous week. So when you're playing these tight end games, and this is something Josh and I have been talking about for ages, you either need to get an elite guy who you can hope to get 5 to 10 points out of at floor every week, or you need to stream the position because that's how you miss these 1-point games. So you can't just plug Gasecki in and expect 5 points every week. It's just not going to happen in this offense. Before we start to close the show out, we got another question. Leonardo Perez, welcome to the show. Who would we start in this upcoming week? Higgins, Deontay Johnson, Curtis Samuel, Christian Kirk. He has Jefferson locked in, and then he's expecting Mike Evans to be suspended unless it came out today, and I didn't see it yet. So.
Yeah, I think I saw Michael in the chat posted that he was suspended. I have not. Yeah, it was suspended. 1 game for the altercation. So there's that. Let's see who's.
So let's assume he needs to start at least 2 of these guys.
All right, I mean, the Bengals play the Jets. You're obviously starting Higgins.
Yep.
Steelers play the Browns on Thursday. I mean, to me, it was always going to be Deontay Johnson and T. Higgins anyway.
Yeah, let's assume. Okay, yeah. So T. Higgins and Deontay Johnson are in. If you have to start a 4th, I think the Curtis Samuel, Christian Kirk is the
that is definitely a very good argument on that one. Who do they got next week? Let me see. Looking at it right now. We have the Jaguars at the Chargers. Okay. And you have the Eagles at Commanders. So, I mean, Samuel he's the 3rd wide receiver. Like that's, you know, you're still kind of banking on, you know, high usage and matchups at that point. I think I'd side with Kirk over Samuel just because I know who he is in that offense. I know the Chargers have a really good defense, but again, you're still looking at a guy that, you know, 6 catches back-to-back weeks, like, you know, scored twice this past week. Like he's very involved in this offense.
And shouldn't see a ton of JC Jackson, right?
Probably. That would be my guess, but JC's not typically going to run in the slot.
That's what I figured. So I don't think he would see a lot of him there.
Yeah. So, and something that Kirk does really well is he finds holes in zones, and we see it more and more. These teams are running zone. They're not playing man. So that's going to benefit Christian Kirk anyway. So if I had to go between those two, give me Christian Kirk over Samuel. But if you have to start Kirk over Deontay or Higgins, I would not be doing that.
And I just worry about how Washington is spreading the ball around, because so far McLaurin, Samuel, and Dotson have all been involved, and are they going to be able to do that every single week? And then Leonardo also wants to know, based on the trade we gave the advice on earlier, he has Aaron Jones and Zach Ertz is his starting tight end. Should he look for a similar trade for Pitts and Kamara? I don't think you need to.
Yeah, I don't think you do either. I like Ertz. I think he's very easily a top 10 tight end. Obviously, he lacks the, top 3 upside that Kyle Pitts has. And you're ideally expecting Ertz to kind of come back to earth a little bit when Hopkins comes back, and some of these guys get healthy, like, Rondale Moore, etc. But like, I don't, the rapport is there between Ertz and Murray. So I don't think even when those guys come back that Murray's just all of a sudden going to forget about Ertz. And I would much rather have Aaron Jones than Kamara as my, even in this case, RB2, because, he's got Mixon as his one. So
McSweet just want to let us know that Travis Etienne dug his grave.
Yeah.
Weird usage there. First and foremost, I think he's still watching. Shout out to Joe Zolo for just being super right about James Robinson. Apparently the one man who can come back from an Achilles injury with no problem. So,
no kidding. Jesus.
I think I'm ready to take the big L on James Robinson, but I still think to not worry too much about Travis Etienne. I think.
Yeah, I mean, Etienne was getting plenty of usage, especially early. The yards per carry really for both Etienne and Robinson were abysmal. Neither of them crossed 3 yards a carry. Etienne still involved in the passing game, 3 for 33. Robinson only 2 for 14. Like they're getting the usage. It's just and that's the thing. They really didn't need Etienne at all. Like that's why they were able to lean on Robinson towards the end of the game. That's why he has 23 carries to Etienne's 9. If this Colts team had actually played offense and showed up today, I don't think these stat lines are the same by any means. But, you have to be encouraged by the receiving usage with Etienne. And so, like I said, I'm not full on panic yet, but it does feel like Robinson's going to be the touchdown guy. So you need a huge boom in receiving work for Etienne to truly be like the RB2 that we thought he would be.
Perfect. And to close out the show, we are going to talk about our deep waiver picks. This segment is presented by Connect Go. If you are not familiar with Connect Go, check the links in the description. It is an app that's available for both Apple and Android, where you can connect with some of your favorite fantasy analysts, myself included, but I'm not the only one. We have Stepmom Lauren, Nate Markham from Fantasy and Frames, a lot of different people you can get advice from, and you're able for a small fee to set up text chats or even video chats where we can talk one-on-one about your fantasy team, waivers, trades. Our time is your time. We're there to help you. So once again, you want to look at Connect Go. Link is in the description, and we're there to help you win some fantasy championships this season. Deep waivers, if you're not familiar, I do a waiver article every week where I focus on guys who are available in 50% or more ESPN leagues. But that typically only plays out well for 10 to 12 team leagues. We want something out there that is going to be available for everybody, no matter your league size. So we are looking at players who are available in more than 90% of ESPN leagues. So I try to give you a little bit of variety. It almost heavily leads towards wide receiver every week just because there's so many good wide receivers. But I would take a very big look at Eno Benjamin coming from Arizona. I think you're going to see a big push for Daryl Williams because he scored the touchdown, but that was actually his only red zone touch of the entire day. Benjamin had 12 carries and 8 targets in 2 games, 4 red zone touches. His usage has been constant with or without Connor in the game. With Connor dealing with this ankle injury, Eno Benjamin would be the guy I was going out. And if I'm a Connor manager, I want Benjamin on my bench for sure. Josh kind of put a hole in this balloon. Corey Davis was my number 2 just because of how much Davis has been used. But Josh does bring up a very good point that the Jets have thrown the ball a lot more than you would expect them to. And we don't know if they're going to be able to sustain these wide receivers all season long. He is likely third, but I think the work will be there because I just don't think they're that good of a team. But I actually snuck 2 guys in here together. So if you want to just eliminate Corey Davis, you're still getting a top 5 for me. Next up is Sterling Shepard and Richie James. And it feels dirty telling people to go after Giants pass catchers. But you need to chase targets. I read a rumor that Kenny Golladay cleaned his locker out yesterday after the game.
Garbage anyway.
Yep. Well, so if Kenny Golladay is not there, Richie James's role becomes a lot more secure. So Richie James is definitely 100% available. There's not very many leagues where Richie James is on a roster right now. And if you go look at their targets, I think Richie James is at 14. Sterling Shepard is at 12. We have said for years, Sterling Shepard is a 6 to 8 target per game guy. We weren't sure how he was going to come back from his injury, but it's obviously working out. They're both over 20% target share. And when you're looking in these deep waivers, that's exactly what you're looking for. Sammy Watkins, I know Josh does not want to see, but the fact of the matter is this. Fact of the matter is this. If you watched that game last night, they designed plays for Sammy Watkins, and nobody else on that team is going to come in and take those plays. He is the only Green Bay wide receiver over 100 yards this season. Now, Allen Lazard did miss the game, but Watkins looked better last night with Lazard in the game. He is a safe wide receiver flex from this point. I think he's going to have a very safe floor. It's one of the better quarterbacks he's played with in a very long time, and Aaron Rodgers needs help. I think he's going to lean on the veteran. It seems to be what he's doing so far.
And that's the thing with Watkins. It's always been, can he stay healthy?
Exactly. And so, yeah, you have to worry about that. And obviously you cut him if he's not. But right now, what I liked is they called that same play for him twice, where it was this play action and him on just this quick slant route. He was wide open both times. And they're going to keep doing that and scheming for Sammy Watkins. You want a piece of Aaron Rodgers. He's not completely dead yet. And then the last one is Juwan Johnson. For those out there looking for tight ends, you're either chasing touchdowns or you're chasing targets, and targets are a lot easier to predict. Juwan Johnson is on pace for over 100 targets for the New Orleans Saints. We thought it was going to be Adam Troutman. It is not Adam Troutman. Taysom Hill is playing way more quarterback than tight end, so that was all just an illusion. Juwan Johnson is the guy who is out there. He scored 4 touchdowns last season. Don't forget that. He hasn't found the end zone yet. So this is a guy who has shown the capability of dropping 4 touchdowns with over 100 targets. He's who everybody wants Cole Kmet to be. So Juwan Johnson is a guy that I would take a look for. Josh, before I get us out of here, what are your thoughts on Jalen Hurts tonight?
Well, we touched on it a little bit earlier in the show, but I don't think, 250, 1 touchdown, 70 yards, rushing yards, and a touchdown is out of the realm of possibility. He could very easily top 30 points. He could also only score 16. And that's kind of the thing with Jalen Hurts is it's a seesaw. You don't know which version's going to show up. I read somewhere that he was like Pro Football Focus's like 3rd highest graded quarterback last week. And I'm like, did y'all fucking watch that game? Because he looked like dog shit most of the game. It was like, yeah. But hey, you know what? If it's positive Eagles news, I'm going to take it and I'm going to run with it. So, it definitely had some highs, definitely had some lows. But again, the offensive line did not look great last week. So I think you'll see a different variation of that, but it's going to boil down to play calling. We know he's going to get his rushing yards. If he gets a touchdown out of it, that's even better. And I'm curious to see if they're able to work Devonta Smith into the wide receiver rotation, because he only had 2 targets last week, 0 receptions, not great. But you've got to be able to take some attention away from A.J. Brown, even though A.J. Brown is really fucking good. And he's going to toast Patrick Peterson tonight.
I'm expecting a high-scoring game. I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to be a good game tonight. I'm expecting.
And that just means it's going to be 17-14. Thanks for that, Ryan.
I know. I was going to say, and I know that I'm jinxing everything that's involved here. And somehow the Tennessee-Buffalo game is going to be 60-61 and just the best fantasy game of the entire world. Josh, before we get out of here, I can do the outro of just our articles and everything. Do you have anything you want to say to anybody?
I do not. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Kyra, we love you. Get well soon.
Yeah, definitely.
The show's definitely more fun when you're on it. So
yeah, sorry Joe's a dick, and I'm sorry you weren't here to talk about the new spelling of Cole Kmet's name with those 2 zeros. But folks, let me first and foremost tell you, thank you for joining the show. We're always happy to answer your questions. Let's talk about articles and why you should be following Club Fantasy at Club Fantasy FFL on Twitter and checking out our website. We have articles that come out basically every day from Tuesday forward for the rest of the week. We have articles about waivers. We have articles about the best matchups for DFS, start sit articles, betting articles, player prop articles, my streams of the week. If you want an article to help you with fantasy football, it's probably being done at Club Fantasy. Our writers are absolutely fantastic, using the tools we give them, digging into it. You definitely want to be checking that out. But way more importantly, you want to be following us on YouTube, because we do a show every day except for, what is it, Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. So I guess 4 days.
Actually, Tuesdays are coming up soon because we've got her story in the making. In
that's right,
for Flynn. So yeah, that'll be.
Yeah, and then is Joe still doing the Instagram start sits anymore? Or are we doing?
I honestly have no idea. I have not spoken to
Joe. Let us know in the chat if you're still doing that. But let's talk about what we are definitely doing. As you know, we react to Monday's action or Sunday's action every Monday. On Wednesday, we have our flagship show. It's called No Punt Intended, where we preview the following week. We give you our bold predictions. It's been very fun. Thursday is an enormous day for us. We drop 2 articles and we do 2 shows. The best of our 2 shows, no offense, Joe, but be offended, is the sneaky flex, where the sneaky girls, if you're not familiar, you need to get familiar. And Kelly Singh give you their start sit advice for the week. It's just a fun little 15-minute show. It's one of my favorite things that we do, because we are truly promoting women in this industry and building careers literally from the ground up. But if you're a weirdo and you play IDP like me and Joe do, we also do an IDP show right after that. Saturdays, we do a show that's completely dedicated to start sit advice. We're there to help you. And then Sundays, we focus on DFS. I even said we don't do a show Sunday. It's my damn show with Kyra. that I forgot about. We literally have shows. You need to be following us on YouTube. And way more importantly, when we hit 450 subscribers, Josh, we are giving away a
signed Cortland Sutton Broncos jersey, which, by the way, 7 catches, 122 yards.
Yep.
Flex on him, baby.
That's right. We had just crossed 400 subscribers.
And we're already halfway to 450. We're at 426 right now. So
there you go. And Joel with the cosign here. The sneaky girls are absolutely the cutest thing in the history of fantasy football. And you know what? I'm not even going to add anything to that. That is how you end the show. That's a mic drop right there. Make sure you're checking that show out. Everybody, have a great day. Don't overreact. Chill the fuck out.